It is October 1st, and apparently what that means, it's October 1st, 2025. Do you know if your government's open? Well, the answer is there are portions of the government not open today. What does it mean? Well, you heard, if you heard my last monologue about this, you know this is a manufactured moment. This is a created political, a manufactured political drama based on legal interpretations of two justice departments that go back to the Carter and Reagan era, and a whole bunch of members of Congress who claim they don't like these shutdowns, but have refused to pass legislation that actually would make these showdowns moot. So I'm not going to bother to rehash that, but it really bothers me. I saw the New York Times did a story about we've had 50 years of this polarizing, and sort of glossed over the fact that this is simply an interpretation. There's no law in the Constitution that says the government is open or closed on October 1st, depending on when you pass appropriations bills. This is essentially a decision that people in power made in order to create a point of drama or leverage, apparently, for no particular good that's come from it, right? This has just been a disaster. And I think this is the challenge that Democrats have, being the instigators of this, which is, for my entire adult lifetime, it has been the Republicans that have been the instigators of the shutdown. We've had these. It was when there was a Democratic president that we had it in the 90s, Democratic president when we had it during Obama. It is with Trump that's the first time we've had this with a Republican president. Now, the first time it was Republican. This is now the second time we've had a shutdown with Trump as president and Republicans in charge of both the House and the Senate. Now, because of the filibuster, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, because you got to ask yourself, what if this is what ends the filibuster? I'm fascinated to see what the reaction would be among some on the left who've been agitating for getting rid of the filibuster for some time. Imagine if this is the trigger for it. Just something to put a pin in that, right? Let's just file this away for a second. But we're here, and I think the issue, and it's reflective. I've got some poll numbers I want to go through that are actually well-timed, sort of end of September polls. They're well-timed, but we get at this question of shutdowns. And, the Democrats have messaged for 20 years that shutdowns are bad. And now here they are on the other side passing up the opportunity for a clean, sort of temporary 6-week extension to keep the government open. Because, they want and this is, I said this before, I think tactically they made a mistake not accepting this continuing resolution to November. I think they would be better off having this showdown over the exact same issue, healthcare subsidies, the Obamacare subsidies. They'd have been better off, I think, starting that fight in November, after the 2025 elections in Virginia, New Jersey, New York, et cetera. But here's what's interesting. So the Times has this new polling out, and let me read you a couple of the questions that had to do with a shutdown. Who would you blame if there is a shutdown? The Democrats in Congress, Donald Trump, and the Republicans in Congress, both or both parties equally, or all entities equally. Now, they combined Republicans and Donald Trump into one column. There's other polling out there that has put Democrats in Congress, Republicans in Congress, and Donald Trump as separate three categories. So essentially, when you start to see it that way, if you separate it out, more people blame Democrats in Congress than Trump. But if you combined Republicans in Congress and Trump, you see where I'm going. But there's essentially a third, and a third, right? A third are saying it's one party's fault. A third are saying it's the other party's fault. And a third just blame everybody type of mindset. But I thought this was interesting. They just asked a straight up question. Which statement comes closer to your view, even if neither is exactly right? The Democrats should shut down the government if their demands are not met. 27% agreed with that statement. The Democrats should not shut down the government, even if their demands are not met. 65% agreed with that statement. That's the uphill battle here that I think Democrats are dealing with. There's a reason results matter more than promises. just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan has become America's largest injury law firm. For the last 35 years, they've recovered $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients. It includes cases where insurance companies offered next to nothing, short of shortchanging, seeing if they could get away with it. And Morgan & Morgan fought back, and they won millions. In Pennsylvania, one client was awarded $26 million. It was a staggering 40 times the amount that the insurance company originally offered. That offer, $650,000, whatever it took to sort of get away without paying. So with more than 1,000 lawyers across the country, Morgan & Morgan knows how to deliver for everyday people. So if you're injured, you're looking for a lawyer, check out forthepeople.com/ToddCast or dial pound law, pound 529 on your cell phone. And remember, all law firms are not the same. So give Morgan & Morgan a look. Their fee is free unless they win. You've got a confluence of things that have happened over the last 20 years that frankly have conditioned the public about shutdowns. One is they're not that serious. I explained this to you in the last episode. They exempt Social Security, they exempt military pay, they exempt TSA, they're not going to disrupt the flights, they exempt food inspectors, they exempt so many things that it's sort of like, all right, it's sort of the operational part of government that matters a lot. People will notice over time when those parts of government are shuttered, but they don't notice in the immediate, right? So anything that the public might notice immediately, politicians over the years have tried to sort of, shield that, right? So that's how you've had these, military gets paid, back pay for federal government workers is now guaranteed. You have all these little things in there that are done to sort of mitigate the consequences of a shutdown in the moment. But as I've said, what it's done is lowered the consequences for a shutdown. If the consequences were much higher, as in Social Security checks don't go out tomorrow morning, hard stop. Military doesn't get paid next Friday, hard stop. I promise you there'd be more urgency to this. But they took all of that out, which is, again, and so the public has gotten used to that. These shutdowns are annoying. They're distractions. They over time impact the economy negatively. They're not good. They slow down. I told you all the wasted government money, wasted time for people, particularly if you're in a public-private, defense contractors have time wasted. They still get paid, and the government will eventually reimburse them, but they don't do the actual work. And this could be a few weeks, could be longer. So I don't know what the exit ramp is here for anybody. It does seem as if the Trump administration would love to try this out. And the threats that Trump has made actually showcase an issue that I wish more voters cared about, which is Donald Trump does not believe he should govern for people that didn't vote for him. And if anything, he wants to punish anybody by getting rid of any program that the government funds that doesn't benefit him somehow politically. And he's essentially telegraphed this. He goes, I'm going to be able to reverse some things that they're never going to be able to get back. He is almost excited about the opportunity to govern with a political lens, and a harsh one at that.